Okay. All right. So today we're going to look at, like I said, prepositions of behavior. So here, I want to do a little bit of the grammar, just like right off the bat to give you another like head spinning, whatever. Big picture view kind of like how it works. And then I want to do practice sentences. So you have 3 sheets that I made for you. The first one talks about type 1 and type 2 suffixes. That's what we're going to start off today. The second one gives you a chart of some examples of prepositions and the full breakdown with the full endings on them. Those are personal pronoun endings. That's what that is. And the third sheet has a bunch of sentences that we're going to look at and dissect together so that you have a better understanding of how Hebrew sentences are put together. So first sheet. So you've got type 1 and type 2 suffixes. That's what you see here. So here is an example comparing side by side. This one is type 1. And this one is type 2. Okay? It's like type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Yeah, it's a little better than that. So how does it work? Basically, you've got these endings. These endings are the pronoun, right? So if you look at it, what's the preposition here? The preposition is let, right? This is the preposition. Just the letter let, which means to or for, right? Now, you add the ending to it, you add the yud, it becomes li, right? What does that mean? It means to me. So the word me is this suffix, e. So you add the cha to it, lecha, to you, right? And you're familiar with that, I'm sure. All right, and you're familiar with that? Do we need to go in more detail or not? You can let me know if you go through it.
I'm not familiar with that.
All right, so what we're saying here is, in English, let's say you've got the preposition, then you've got the object of the preposition, right? So say, give the book to me. Give the book to me. So, to me, I'm the object of the preposition. To is the preposition, right? So like the object of the preposition is telling you like, right, that makes sense, right? I think I don't need to explain that. So in Hebrew, the way it works is, whenever it's a pronoun, so like if I were to say, give the book, if you say give the book to Arkady, you'd say let Arkady, right? So you just say let and then the person's name, or let whatever noun it is. It could be a noun. When it's a pronoun, saying to me, to you, to him, to her, that is expressed through a suffix. So you can't say like ani means I, but it doesn't make, you can't say let ani, you can't say that, right? It doesn't work that way. You have to, the ani, let's say, becomes e, that's what that becomes, and that means me. So you put it as a suffix, so it becomes li. Li means to me, right? Lecha. So the suffix cha is corresponding to ata, right? You masculine. Now lach corresponds to at, you feminine. The vav here, lo, right, corresponds to him, right? To him, la, to her, lanu, to us, lachem, to you plural, lachem, to you plural female, lahem, to them, lachem, to them female, feminine. So that's type 1. The exact same endings are there in type 2, because if you look at it, you'll see that the same yud is right here, the same chaf that you have here is here, the same chaf is here, the same vav is here, the same hey is here, right? Nun vav, right? It's really looking like very, very similar. What's the difference? Type 2 adds a yud here, right? Actually here also would have on your sheet you have the 1 yud because you have the nekudot. But without nekudot, we actually usually write this as 2 yuds. use two yuds to differentiate. So you have an extra yud in there, right? This also is a double yud for the same reason. This is a double yud. That has to do more with like pronunciation, like to be able to read without the nikudot. Sometimes we add extra yud for ease of reading, right? That's all that is. But you have extra yud in here, right here, and then the same exact ending as type 1. What's the difference here? I will explain to you. With these two types of endings, in reality, you can use these endings with any noun, not just the prepositions, but any noun that exists. And what it means when you use it with a noun is it expresses possession, right? So like if you say chaver is a friend. If you say chaveri, means my friend. If I say chavero, that's his friend, right? So what is this type 2? What does it mean if I say, like, this is I ending, right? This is E ending, this is I ending. So like this preposition le only works with the type 1 endings, which is li. This one is al. Al means on or about. This is a type 2 preposition. It only uses type 2 endings. But type 2 endings are actually the plural endings. So when you say alai, right, that's actually a type 2 ending. That's actually the plural ending, the plural suffixes, which would correspond to like chaverai, right? Chaveri, chaverai. What's the difference? Chaveri means my friend. Chaverai means my friends.
Okay, so then the noun is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's just how it works. Okay. So this is used, the type 1, when you use it with a noun, the type 1 suffixes are used with singular nouns, and the type 2 suffixes are used with plural nouns. But when you talk about prepositions, the prepositions all break up into either type 1 or type 2 for no apparent reason other than that's just the rule. So this preposition will always be type 1 and get these endings. This preposition will always be type 2 and get these otherwise plural endings, but it's just type 2 endings. So if you look at this chart, the second sheet, here's a bunch of prepositions. Right? We'll go look at it real quick. So first one, we're going from the right. Be, right? Be means on or in certain contexts. It can mean with in the sense of like doing something with something, like using something as an instrument to accomplish something. Like I hit it with a hammer or something like that. So you see, that's a type 1, right? So when you add the suffixes to it, you're going to get bi, becha, bach, bo, ba, banu, bachem, bachen, bahem, and bahen, which actually there's also a form, it's more common, which is baham, and it's not shown here, so I don't know why, but the form which is baham, where the hay is omitted there.
For that, like with
For
them.
bed, yeah. That happens with some of them. Sometimes they have that form in the plural. And then you've got le. Again, le is that same ending, type 1, right? You've got li, lecha, lach, lo, la, lanu, lachem, lachen, lahem, lahen. You've got bein. Bein means between. Same thing. Beini, beincha, beinach, or beinach, beino, beina, beinenu, beinechem, etc. Etzel. Etzel means at. That's the easiest way to describe it, at. So you've got etzli. What does it mean, etzli? If I just use it in the sense, it means like at my place, at my house. At me is what that means, at me. But when you use that colloquially or whatever, it means like at my house, at my place. But it could mean anything in that, however you want, whatever context you want to use it in. They say here next to, they translate as next to. Maybe that's what it means, next to, but it really means like at. Now you got one here, achare. Acharei means after or behind. That one is a type 2. So you see, it's not Achari, it's Acharai, right? What's the difference here? What are the different ones? So it's Acharai, Acharecha, Acharaich, that's a very different one. Acharav, right? It's not Acharo, it's Acharav. Acharecha, Achareinu, Acharechem, Acharechem, Acharehem, Acharehem. So the major differences, so there's obviously the yud in there, which for a lot of them will just add like a yud sound in there, right? Like if you compare, like here, this one was alai, right? Alecha, alaich, alav, aleha, aleinu, alechem, like shalom aleichem, alechem, alehem, alehem. So the major differences here is it's not ali, like this is li, it's alai. So it's like an I ending here. Echa is very similar to echa, lecha, alecha. But it's, you see that it's a, I guess the stress is going on this one, on the yud, alecha, alecha. But here, alayich, very different, right? Alav, here you actually pronounce the vav as a v, alav. Aleha, you pronounce the hey, whereas here it would just be a. Here you actually pronounce the hey, aleha, aleinu, alechem, right? So that's just looking at the endings. I just wanted to explain it. So any questions about that? The point here is we've got two types of endings. This one is used when you use it with nouns. This is for singular. When you use it with nouns, this one is plural. But when you use it for prepositions, it becomes like type 1 and type 2, same exact endings. And every preposition will fall into one of the two categories. And it always stays in that category. So you know exactly how to use these endings with.
It's funny that the plural ones, like though they're a suffix, they're prefaced by the sound. Distinguish their plural.
Yeah, they have, the extra letter here is the yud. So it's kind of like, the plural, you know the plural in, is im, let's say, right? Like chaver, chaverim. So when you add, so you drop the men and you're left with the yud. That's where that yud comes from, right? Because if you have, well, whatever, I don't want to get off topic here, but. Okay. So no, any questions about this? Everything's clear about this? Right. I want to go into some practice sentences. And so I'm going to erase this. Okay. So I'm gonna try to write this on two sides, right? So we can compare them, English and Hebrew. Okay, first sentence. he told me about his friends. הוא סיפר לי על החברים שלו. Right? So I try to write it so that it corresponds, so you can see the words. So let's break it down. First, he, who. That's clear, right? It's easy. Okay, told, siper. So this is the verb here. This one is a PL verb. That's why it goes PL, siper, right? That's the third person past tense form. It's following that pattern. Okay, and that is the infinitive that would be lesaper. So present tense would be mesaper, but this is past tense siper. Okay, me. He told me. He told to me, right?
Me.
Yeah. So that's how you get li. Li is to me. That's what we just saw. About. That's the other one we just saw, which was the type 2 on the right side. That's al. Right? Al means about. It means on, or it's used to mean about. Okay? HaChaverim. So we break it down. Ha, the, chaver, friend, im, plural ending, right? Shelo, break that down. Shel, meaning possessive, with the ending vav, meaning his, right? Shelo means his. So, how would this sentence read if you were to not say his friends? You don't want to use that term, right? But instead you wanted to use the pronoun endings, the suffix, with al. So instead of saying he told me about his friends, let's say his friends were already mentioned in the previous sentence. Let's say you actually wanted to just say, he told me about them. Okay? So, anyone want to take a stab at it? So we know we've got about, right?
Alechem.
Yeah, exactly. Good job. Alehem, right? Is that okay? Makes sense. What if you wanted to say? You want to say? Now say the whole sentence. Hu siper li alehem. Hu siper li alehem. Alehem. Let's say you want to say, he told her about them. How would you say that sentence? Say the whole sentence. Yep. Hu siper la alehem. He told her about them. Okay? Does that make sense? Now what if we want to say, she told him about them? You want to take a stab at it? Say it again. He, word by word. He, okay. Okay, gotta take it slow, yeah. He, sipra, good. Lo, right? She, right? She told him now. Lo, aleha. Okay, and what if you want to say, she told him about me? Yeah, whole sentence. Right. Yeah, isipra lo alai. Right, that would be like that, okay? So, that's the first sentence. Any questions about it? Any of these words?
And then if you wanted to say his friends, but shorten it, it would be, like, he told him about, it would be chavarav, right? It's plural.
Yes, chaverav,
Yeah.
exactly. Chaverav is the other way of saying chaverim shelo. Chaverim shelo equals chaverav. When which is that type 2 ending, which is the plural ending, okay? So, this word shelo, you can break this down into 3 words. There's 3 letters, but each letter here is its own word, actually. She means that. Le means to, and lo means him. That to him. That's how you would break that down. Right? So it's really like an entire sentence. Because like we say shall means of, and it does, but I always thought shall makes sense to break that down as really that is to, whatever, because the way you express possession in Hebrew, no matter what, you can always express it through that same preposition le, right? So you say, I have something, you say yesh li mash, say, right? That's how you express possession. Say there is to me, or there is not to me. That's how you express possession. So, yeah, so that's a good point here. Chaverav, his friends. Now that form chaverav would not be used in colloquial speech. Okay, I think you know that it's not really. It would not be like you could. I mean, I'll tell you when it is used in colloquial speech with family members, right?
Okay.
Like achi, achiv,
Okay.
aviv. Like these words are actually used. It's
What about chaverai?
chaverai.
Don't
Sure.
you say that?
No, you wouldn't really say that in a sentence when you're just talking. Unless it's a very formal speech.
Okay.
Yeah, these types of endings are used in very formal or academic settings. It's commonly used in this type of thing, like in universities, in like a paper you would write in a university. It's much more common written than it is like any kind of like technical writing would use it almost exclusively. Like you wouldn't see words like shelo in a technical type of writing, right? Or anything like academic or anything, but also not like religious. It wouldn't be like that. But speaking, day-to-day speech, even on like not on a low level, on a like normal like educated level, it's not common to use these endings all the time.
Okay.
For specific words, yes. Certain words, it's common. It's most words not common. So, all right. Second sentence. Okay. I spoke with the man. So. Okay. Anyone want to read this sentence? Just read it as is. Why do we have such a big class? Somebody raised their hand.
Ani dev Tirati
Yeah, Dibati.
Tirati. Um.
Yeah, yeah, Hamenahed. Hamenahed. So that's a lot to break down here, right? First word, ani, right? We know that one. That means, any guesses? Ani. Yeah, I. Starting says I need. Dibakti. So what is this? It's another PL verb. Like we saw the last one was siper. Now if I were to conjugate that for the ani form, for the I form, right? I would say in the past tense, si parti, right? That's how that would go. Si per turns into si parti, and diber turns into dibarti, right? So ani dibarti, I spoke. Im means with. Ha menahed, right? Ha is the, menahed is manager, right? Now, let me explain this word briefly, menahed. You know the word menahed?
I was talking like principal, but I can understand what.
Yeah, it can be principal, menahed. It's a manager, right? This form right here that we're looking at is actually also a present tense PL verb, right? Because the verb is lenahed. I'm gonna write this in transliteration so you can see it. Okay, lenahed, to manage. Maybe managing a project, managing a team, or whatever. Lenahed, okay? In the present masculine form, it becomes menahed, right? And I don't know if you were in that class or not, but a long time ago we looked at the present tense. I think you were there. And the present tense, I said, it doesn't really exist as a verbal form. It's not really truly a verbal form. It's more like a noun or adjective form, right? And that's what that means. It really means like managing. Menahed means managing or one who manages. So that's what that is. And all present tense verbs are like that. The present tense form can be translated in English as an adjective or a noun, right? It can be an adjective or a noun.
An adjective or a verb?
It's an adjective, noun, or verb.
Okay.
Because it depends how you look at it. Like I can take almost any present tense verb form, all right, and throw a ha in front of it, and it becomes a noun.
How do you make it an adjective?
It is already like an adjective. It's already it's like the ing form of it. Like this doesn't mean manages; it means managing, basically. It's like.
But if you say hu menahel, it means he manages.
That's right.
Right.
Hu menahed. What's the difference between saying hu menahed? It means he manages, or he is a manager.
Mm-hmm.
It means the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this subtlety that we have in English of defining it specifically as either a verb or a noun or an adjective does not fully exist in Hebrew, to be honest. Like, you know, when we translate it, we add more detail to it than there is. Like, it already is the same thing in meaning. He is a manager, he is managing.
It's almost like extraneous.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Or he is one who is managing. Like, it's all the same thing.
But like an adjective is usually something that describes a noun, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So this isn't an adjective, it's just a noun, right?
It depends how you look at it. Because it's like it could be a noun, or it could be an adjective because it's like the ing ending, right? For example, like let's say the boy is singing, right? If I can take the word singing and turn it into an adjective immediately, like this, because I say the singing boy. If I say
But
the singing
it's how
boy,
you use it though, right? When
Yeah,
you say
it's how you use
he is
Same
singing,
word.
that's in itself isn't an adjective, right? That's a verb.
that's a verb. That's an auxiliary verb, or not auxiliary verb. That is I forgot what it's called, but it's the ing form of the verb.
Okay.
It's the progressive tense. That's
Okay,
what it's called.
so you could say menahel adam, like a managing person.
No, Hamenahed is the one who manages, the manager.
Okay.
There's no difference between when you say Hamenahed, that's a noun. That's 100% noun. And that means the one who manages or the manager is the same thing, right? So yeah, so this is the noun, for sure, a noun, but I'm just explaining that it's actually the present tense verbal form used as the noun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a PL verb, right? So if you were to say, so Lenahen, what would be past tense? He managed, who, no, because let's say this is PL. Who diber, who siper, who,
Hold on, this is also PL verb?
yeah, PL, same form, I'm telling you the pattern here. Who, no, listen to what I'm saying, past tense, masculine form, right?
Okay.
Who siper, right? We saw he told, right? Who siper. He spoke, who diber.
Mm-hmm.
He managed, who,
Nihal.
close, nihel.
Nihal.
Yeah, because you see that's where the root is that nun,
Oh.
hey, lame, nihel. It's like that, dalet, bed, right? Diber, nihel, right? So if this is diber turns to dibarti, nihel turns to, no idea, nihalti. Siper, siparti, diber, dibarti, nihel, nihalti. That's the PL form. But we're not saying nihalti. This is just an extra. That's a bonus for you. But what I want to look at now is, look, what does it mean? Ani dibarti im hamenhed. I spoke with the manager, right? Right? If I want to say, I spoke with him, right? Okay, let's take it slow here. I spoke with him. There's a lot to go over here, actually. Okay, so how would you do that? You can cheat and look at the chart. Actually, don't, you mean look at the chart. It's not cheating, look at the chart. Look at this chart here. Look at the two columns from the right. You've got im. The third column from the right got im. And right next to you have another one called et. All right. So all of the word im means with. And whenever we're going to say with something or with someone, and you're using the full word like we had hamen head or a person's name, right? Not the pronoun, but you use the word im, right? You use the word im. You never use the word et, ever. That exists in the Bible in a few places where they use the word et to mean with, but in modern Hebrew we always use im. But when we add the pronoun ending, we don't use im. Like, if you do, it sounds biblical. It sounds extra fancy, Shakespearean, you know? So we use et, right? So it's like we're using two different words. Whether you use it standalone as im, or if you're adding pronouns, you use et. And so you would do away with the im altogether and switch that out for et. Oops. Right, et. And with the endings you would do is it would become, and it's not et, it's eat. It's a form of et which is pronounced eat. It becomes ito. Okay? Ani dibarti ito. That's how you would say that.
Wait, but I thought you just said that, like, using et as with is biblical.
By itself. If you want to say ani dibarti et hamenahed,
Oh, okay.
you wouldn't
But
say
if
that.
it's conjugated like that, then it's
Yeah.
totally normal. And to
Yeah.
use im is actually not cool.
Yeah, you could say it's not wrong grammatically in Hebrew to say ani dibarti imo.
Okay,
That's not wrong.
but it's just not what people do.
That's a very biblical form. That's common in the Bible.
Okay.
But in modern Hebrew we say ito. Ito. This form et has two ways. It turns into two different words. Okay. I talked about et in a previous previous lesson. I think you were not here yet. Were you here for that one, for et?
Not sure.
Et, right, the word et is pretty unique. It's actually a direct object marker, is what that is. It's not, there's no translation for the word et. Other than sometimes it means with, that's in the Bible. But otherwise, most times, all it's doing is, it's saying the next word that follows it is gonna be the direct object of the sentence. Now, it's only used with, what is it called, definite nouns, right? Like definite article. So, whenever you have et, it's gonna have the ha after it, every time. And then the word. It's always gonna be et, ha, whatever, right? And what that means is, this word is the direct object of the sentence. That's what that is, right? Now, if it's an indirect, right? Not indirect, I'm sorry, if it's not definite, if it's just any noun, right? Like, I have to give you an example. You know, I ate the cake, that specific cake, the one we're talking about, right? That specific cake, I ate the cake. In Hebrew, you need to say, I ate et the cake, right? That's how you have to phrase that.
Is that right?
Something open?
No, it's close.
Sounds loud.
And if you want to say, I ate a cake, you can't, there is no a, it's just cake, I ate cake. That's how you would say that. So there is a definite article, ha, in Hebrew, there is no indefinite article. Does that make sense? Right, yeah. So the same word et turns into two other words. Okay, one of them is od, where you would add a vav in modern Hebrew, without nikudot, you would add a vav there. And the other one is eat. Right? Like this. And these only exist with endings. Like you would never say od or eat by itself. Right? Only when you have these endings on it, and with the endings like ot, for example, or et, right? Ot is me as a direct object, or et is with me. So those are the two forms of that it turns into. Right? Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? No. Did you know that? So,
I mean, not in like the theoretical sense,
yeah.
so it's helpful to.
Okay, I wanted to have this sentence in order to show that example. Now, how would do you want to practice this one, and we'll switch it up a little bit? What if we wanted to say, he spoke with them, with us. Let's do that one. He spoke with us. So let's go word by word. He, anyone want to guess what that is? Huh? Who, good. Who, what would be the PL past tense form for who? Diber. So we just erase that and we're left with diber. Good. Who diber? And we want to say with us. With us. Any guesses? Anybody? No? Itan. Yeah, that's right. Itan. Who diber itan? He spoke with us. What if you want to say, we spoke with her? We're going to switch it up again. How do you say we? You know?
Tell me?
Anachnu. Right, so this is anachnu. Anachnu. What would be the form here? yeses.
דיברנו.
דיברנו. אנחנו דיברנו, and what do we say with her?